Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Hidden Door live show, episode 4. My name is Tess Letham. I'm an independent dance artist here in Edinburgh, and some of you may remember me from the last show in November, but I was wearing a much more exciting outfit. But I'm back, and I'm buzzing to be presenting tonight's show, which is titled Restriction, which highlights the recent challenges faced by performers, venues, and all other workers who together make live performances happen. This show has been curated by the amazing Tamara Schlesinger, otherwise known as MALKA. There'll be a variety of sets from a lineup of musicians, as well as short interviews with the artists, including Carla J, Easton and Kapil Seshasayee, Pictish Trail, and a live performance by MALKA, coming to you right here from Laal. It's so great to be back in a live music venue with an actual band on stage, which you're going to see later on. Even though it feels a bit different to how we would normally be here, there's a lot of exciting energy in the room. And we're thrilled to be able to be here and share with you watching at home. So grab a wee drink for yourself and get comfortable. Like most of the arts and culture, live music venues have been hit really hard this year. And we're thrilled to be able to be back here and to support venues like La Belle in whatever way we can at the moment. So let's move on to the good stuff. I'm excited to announce that our first guest tonight will be Carla J. Easton, where we'll see a short interview and a live recorded set. Carla is an award-nominated songwriter and has been recording, performing, and releasing music since 2006, becoming a fixture of the thriving music scene in Scotland. Along the way, her tunes have been championed by Mark Riley. She's played at festivals across the UK and internationally, and performed live sessions for BBC Music and BBC Radio Scotland. So without further ado, let's go to Carla.
Can you tell me a little bit about your usual writing process?
I've been doing a lot of co-writing over the last year or so. So it'll be sort of like sitting down together maybe with some ideas that stems from a drum beat or a synth part, and then just building it from there. Well, there's many ways to do it. Sometimes I'll go in with an idea to the co-writing session, and then it's just having a sort of open-mindedness to things changing.
Cool. You chose to release your record during lockdown. Can you talk me through that decision and how COVID impacted the release, and if and how it differed from usual?
So it started the year, I'd finished recording my album at the beginning of January, so I had all the mixes and masters back by February, and it was just sort of deciding what to do with the album, like when to release it, what singles were going to be, and there was a temptation to hold it back. I think a lot of labels were holding back to see how the year would unfold, and then the decision was made just with the small team around me to just go ahead and put it out. I thought it was quite interesting how there was this new level playing field between like majors and indie labels, because this was new territory and no one knew really what was happening. So I made a couple of lockdown music videos, still did like a couple of singles leading into the album, but obviously you couldn't do the summer festival shows, which are quite good before an album comes out, or tour it on the week of release, or shortly after, no live radio sessions. So it was challenging and just involved a lot of keeping in contact with fan base through newsletters or a fan club that had started at the beginning of the year, and really taking advantage of Bandcamp Fridays. That was a really good way for me to reach people that I previously hadn't reached before.
Okay, so you streamed your live tour on Zoom after you released the record. Can you tell me a little bit about why you came up with that idea, whether you enjoyed the process, and how the interaction with your audience felt compared to your previous live shows?
The reason why I wanted to do a Zoom tour was because I really miss the community of live music. I miss chatting to people at shows, either before a play or after a play at the merch table, or just meeting people who, you know, buy your stuff online or are on your newsletter, and it's quite nice like actually meeting people and putting a name to a face. And the few live streams that I'd done prior to my Zoom tour, I just felt it really exacerbated my anxiety, and I think it's because you no longer turn up at a venue and have people there to help you sound good, like your sound engineers or your lighting teams, and you don't have your band, and you have to do everything. You've got to film, you've got to sound good, and it felt quite overwhelming to me, and just playing to a laptop screen and or little comments coming up. So I just thought it'd be great to have a Zoom tour where I could see the audience and I could chat to them and they could chat to me, like, and it's not just all done through typing, but also they could meet each other the way that you would do at a gig, you know, when you turn up and you end up being friends with people in the audience just because it's like-minded people. So it was really, really great. I did 3 of them and I had such a buzz afterwards, like proper high. And the last Zoom night of my tour, it felt like the end of a tour night, you know, or celebrating. So yeah, it was just really nice to connect everyone like you would do at a live show.
That's great.
Thanks.
One more question. Have you been inspired at all during lockdown to push yourself outside of your usual sound and style to find new ways to create, or have you found a way to continue to make music the way you would have done so previously?
I guess when the last album's like more pop than it is live band in the recording studio, so in a sense I've been able to do that, but not co-writing in the studio. I have started a new project and we're almost finished writing it, so it'll just be fine-tuning it for release next year with my friend Simon, who's in Frightened Rabbit and Olympic Swimmers, and he'd started just playing guitar with me before lockdown at my last 2 gigs, He's from near where I am originally. I'm from Carlick and he's from Lanark, and his dad and my mum are actually in the same Scrabble club. So we decided during lockdown to start writing together, and it's been great. We've got more than an album's worth of songs and we're still writing together. It's been challenging because when you co-write, it's so much easier to be in the same room and get things done quicker because you bounce off each other, whereas now it takes a little bit longer for a song because you have to send files back and forth. But it's been really great. I mean, prior to this year, I didn't own an audio interface or a decent vocal mic. Any recordings I did at home were just for like demos, little sketches for ideas to share with producers or my manager or band members, whereas now it's like actually learning the best way that I can do it at home, record vocals and synth parts that can be used in releases. So it's sort of learning as we go, but with the project with Sai, we don't know any different for collaborating together, so it's not like you've had to adapt it. You've just had to, from the go, find a way to do it, and it's been great to keep creating and have a project to have been working on this year, as well as, you know, releasing an album and all the sort of creative stuff that goes with that, like artwork and videos and things.
Well, thank you, Carla. That was great. Got 8 minutes.
Over you.
put the blame on me. I knew it was time to go, and so I took you on my stride, and I held my head up like I knew it was time to go. And I'm telling you, don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Oh, I'm getting over you. Oh, don't need no, don't need no lover. Don't need no, don't need no lover. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. 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 Don't need no lover in my life. My life ain't gonna waste no time. Oh, I'm getting over you. One, two, three, four. Ba-da-dum-bum, ba-da-da-bum-bum. Ba-da-dum-bum, ba-da-da-bum-bum. Your feet shuffling, the dishes getting washed. The sound of you waking up in the morning. The shoelaces tied, the sound of walking up, and the windows bang shut, and my face is so hot. I go one way, I am looking up. There's a bird in the sky who's watching every move I make. There's a bird in a tree, seeing this is how a heart can break. There's a bird in the sky. The tap is dripping a karaoke beat, but we couldn't keep up with the words on the TV. You gave me lemon, so I made lemonade, and you walked from the shade, and I drank the sweet taste. You go one way, I am looking up. There's a bird in the sky who's watching every move I make. There's a bird in a tree, seeing this is how a heart can break. There's a bird in the sky. My feet shuffle and the dishes get packed. The boxes get stacked in the place that we go. There's a bird in the sky. The shoelaces tied, the
Amazing. Thank you so much, Carla. So next up, we have songwriter and soundsmith Kapil Seshasayee. Kapil is a one-man combination of Scott Walker, Blood Orange, Arca, and Richard Dawson, creating something totally unique. Combining electronica flourishes evoking FKA twigs with Indian classical guitar ornamentations, stunning vocals, and a penchant for unorthodox instrumentation, such as the aquaphone. Kapil manages to be truly experimental, yet still accessible. So let's go to Kapil to hear more about his music with an interview and a recorded live set.
Life as a musician for me has been really interesting in 2020, not least because I can't tour any of the new singles I've been dropping in the summer, etc. I started building an audience online perhaps a lot earlier than a lot of artists, just because of the niche topics that I tend to sing about. When you're based in Scotland, you don't immediately have an audience on your doorstep for topics like caste. And to start a dialogue about those topics and to build awareness of them, it took going online and it took starting that open dialogue really quickly in terms of whether I do it on my website, sfuturism.com, or whether I do it on my social media. It's been a strangely fruitful year in terms of traction from my music due to showcases at places like Wide Days and the Say Award. Managed to nail a booking agent this year, a management team, and hopefully with live returning in 2021, I'll be able to take my music to places I couldn't have taken them to before the pandemic. I'd say the biggest frustration in terms of the current climate and how it's affected my music career is how it's stopped me being able to go out on the road and take my music out there. And to me, it's really important because it's not just about getting to the people who relate to the narrative in my music as it relates to themes like caste or misogyny or the censorship of LGBTQ voices in India through popular media like Bollywood and in television, but it's a case of getting these narratives out to people who don't immediately vibe with them but are interested in learning more and thus normalizing the discourse around these topics. And I've been very lucky that people have been always very keen to learn about new topics that don't immediately relate to their everyday, just like caste or any of the other topics that I tend to sing about. So hopefully in 2021 with live returning, I'll be able to get back to my usual schedule of touring every single quite heavily, be it up and down the UK or out with that. Yeah, I felt very lucky that I've been able to showcase with my band literally in a venue in 2020, and be it through Wide Days or other showcase opportunities like the Say Award. It's made me really appreciate what the live band brings to the new sound of the next record that I'm working on. This contemporary R&B kind of style that I'm channeling for this new record really hinges on that core sound of drums, bass and guitar, but very much in the live sense and not just bunch of sounds firing out of a laptop as per my old material, or that one guy and guitar sound that I was channeling before. In terms of an interaction with a live crowd, that's always been really, really important to me, regardless of the lineup or the setup of the music I'm making. When you're making politically active and politically charged music, it's really important to be able to see, if people are vibing with what you're saying, if they have reservations about the points that you're making. And that interaction and that open conversation is really, really pivotal when it comes to the kind of art I make and the kind of protest narrative that, threads all of my music together. I feel like I learned a whole lot over the course of 2020 as it related to my own creative process and how I could further myself in terms of the quality of songwriting and the points I'm trying to make. When it relates to my first record, it was very much a case of making one point throughout a song and making sure that everything that song discussed all related back to a central point, i.e. that casteism, is a human ill and that we need to be doing something to eradicate it ASAP. In terms of this new material that I'm working on, I feel like my approach is very much progress on to the next stage, which is basically tackling a topic throughout a song, but almost using it as a jumping off point to discuss something a bit greater. For example, there are songs in this new record about erasure of Tamil culture in mainstream Indian cinema, and there's another song about Article 370 and how that relates to the conflict in Kashmir. But, aside from just tackling these topics through song, I'd like to use them as jumping off points to talk about, using those two, for example, my own identity as a Tamil person growing up in Scotland and what that means to me and to the community I grew up as part of. But in addition to that, when he relates the song about Kashmir, what does it mean to be growing up, in like growing up Hindu, and what that means in terms of like how you critique the conflict in Kashmir and the various really complicated like narratives therein. I appreciate that it's really hard to get the nuance across in a 1.5 minute video, but I recommend that like you follow me on social media, where I'll be going into these topics in much greater detail ahead of the next record coming out, so that when those songs come out, you've almost got a greater context in which to appreciate what they're trying to say.
The final page, another tenet of a speech I gave, only ever in a bid to play along. Well, consider it done. I desire to move on, redesign all my words. Now instead of any perversity, note that you and I beholden to me. Become gauge one at a glance. I came alone. Madness, the tones of the red leather, feasting upon it, dilate. Lesser to an eye that should be one, lesser to an eye that should be. I know better than to validate my wants. Stage let your faith instruct, rest to better interrupt my thoughts. Another sign of things to come, reconsider your tone. I desire to move on, redesign all my words. Now instead of any perversity, note that you are beholden to me. to the underpinnings of an act I'd soon regret. For all the trappings of an item girl, I'm in no rush to reappraise it yet. To the underpinnings of an act I'd soon regret. For all the trappings of an item girl, I'm in no rush to reappraise it yet. I hear you ask with every death accrued, who's still afraid of red, yellow, and blue? Nigh on Hilton, violently cries about time vehemently.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Kapil. So next up, we have singer-songwriter Pictish Trail, who has prepared a special performance for us straight from the Isle of Egg. Pictish Trail's critically acclaimed first pair of albums, Secret Sounds Volume 1 and 2, were gloriously eclectic slices of lo-fi folk pop. His third album, Future Echoes, was released to further acclaim in 2016 and went on to win the public vote at the Scottish Album of the Year Awards in 2017. This year saw the release of his new album, Thumbworld, which could be described as bold, weird, wild, wired, sonically luxurious, yet never losing touch with its DIY till I die roots. Through his own label, Lost Map Records, he champions a diverse array of extraordinary talent. So without further ado, let's hand over to Pictish Trail.
Hello, Pictish Trail here, and I'm ready for your questions.
How have you been doing in lockdown?
Terribly. Next question. I've been doing okay. It's been quite surreal. I spent most of this year, all of this year pretty much, on the Isle of Egg since lockdown. And most of my time has really been spent worrying about earning enough and looking after our kids at home. I can't really complain though. I think it's been okay. I think Egg has been the nicest place to be, really. The best place I could have been, given everything that's happened. It's very tranquil there. Lovely community, lovely family, and it's a beautiful place. And it kind of it always feels not like you're not really living in the real world, living on Egg anyway. And so, yeah, the lockdown didn't affect us too badly in that respect.
You're not only an artist, but you also run your own record label. Can you talk to me? You're not only an artist, but you also run your own record label. Can you talk me through how you've been impacted across the board with the current situation?
So the pandemic definitely affected a lot of things in regards to being like a musician, in terms of like touring and all that sort of stuff, which is how I sort of make most of my income. But with Lost Map as a record label, it kind of forced us into a position of just releasing more music, and we became a much more prolific label, I think, in terms of output. We've worked with a lot more artists this year than we have in any previous years. And a lot of that's down to the fact that we've not been able to put on live events, which up until this point had been like a really big part of Lost Map's identity. You know, we put on an event on Egg every so often called the Howl and Fling, and we put on live events in Edinburgh and Glasgow and London and other places throughout the year. Little small events, all dayers usually, where we get together all the acts who are on the label, and those events are things that take up a lot of brain space and a lot of organising, and whereas releasing records is much easier, it's much more instant and quicker than it ever has been. You know, you can have a track recorded and mastered and distributed and up online within a month. And in fact, there was some releases that we did this year where we felt we didn't have to worry about doing a vinyl release even. We thought that it's more important just to get the music out there, and the artists felt that they wanted to get the music out there. They just didn't want to rest on their laurels. And so we started doing CD releases, CDR releases even, ones that we burned. We've got like a CD tower where we started burning CDs and doing small runs of compact disc album releases in hand assembled artwork, and so it's still got something of a DIY feel, and it's made the whole process just much more instant and exciting. and I think the artists have enjoyed it as well, because they've been able to create something and then just have it go out. And with the Lost Map team, we've been able to focus. There's 5 of us who work for the label, and we've been able to sort of focus our efforts on just making the release campaign or whatever it is on each record a more effective thing, and it's forced us to come up with more ideas as well. So it's been good.
What would you say your favourite part of the creative process is? And have you found it hard to balance the business side and the creative side at times?
The bit of the creative process that I really enjoy is the bit where it's the bit after you've recorded the music, the bit after you've written and recorded the music and you've got the mixes. Maybe you've just had them mastered, or maybe it's just before being mastered and you're listening to the music and you're getting to enjoy your music yourself as your very own number one fan. That's the bit that I like the best. As soon as it gets released, it sort of doesn't become yours anymore. It's the whole business side of it does come into play a bit more, and also it just becomes something that means something to other people, whether they like it or not. I do enjoy playing live gigs, and I do enjoy the writing and the recording process, but both of those give me like I go through the depths of despair before any tour and before any writing process. It's usually like tons of self-doubt, diets that don't work, but yeah, the bit where you finished it and you get to enjoy it for yourself, that's the bit I like the most. What's the second part of the question?
Have you found it hard to balance the business and creative side at times?
I think it can be quite difficult to balance the creative and business side of things, because once you bring in the business side of things, you sort of bring in an idea of how you're perceived and how you want people to perceive you, and that can kind of fuel all sorts of anxiety and all that sort of stuff, and it can kind of taint it. But I feel like the business side of it is something where you have to be creative as well. I kind of think you have to have ideas and you have to be able to present your music in a way that is interesting to people, and the more creative ideas you have with that, the better. I think it's not enough just to kind of think that you've got an album, you've recorded a video and you've filmed a video and you've got certain singles planned and then that's it. You kind of have to think beyond that. You have to think about how you're representing the music and how you feel fulfilled representing that music. I think you can't really separate, the business side of things is really important, and in terms of your own creativity.
You'd already released your record before we went into lockdown 1. Did you find that it was harder to promote than usual, or were you able to adapt your usual process to working around the restrictions?
I did find this one hard to promote. Thumbworld came out in February and we started the campaign on it the previous September. The first single came out in September and I was immediately on tour I had some tour dates in October, and then I toured throughout November and December of last year. So I already did quite a lot to promote the album before it even came out. And these days, so many albums have a massive lead-in time, so there's usually 3 or 4 singles that kind of come out. So a lot of the work is done before an album comes out, and then once an album's out, in my head, I thought I had another year at least of touring and festivals and all that sort of stuff. And when that was not available, when the touring thing just completely stopped, it definitely became a lot more difficult to try and work out ways in which to promote the music. I had to kind of think of, I did a whole bunch of online gigs, like I've done tonight, the Hidden Door thing. I've done a whole bunch of those, and I've done podcast interviews with people. I've kept music videos going. My friend Richie Morgan did a bunch of lyric videos, and my friend John Mark Lapham did a music video that came out after the album was released. And so there's been little things like that, but it is tricky to kind of keep momentum going on something when you don't have that live outlet, and that can be quite frustrating, because particularly once the album's out, you want to get the response from the crowd. That's how you gauge whether, you know, if people like it or not, is by doing the shows and people coming up to you afterwards and saying that, you know, maybe they like certain songs, or maybe telling you what they think about the album. And that happens, and it is like quite a powerful part of the whole process. It's really, and it fuels you to kind of keep going and gives you the confidence and all that sort of stuff that fragile egos like mine need. Is that all the questions?
Yeah. Well done.
Do you think I answered them all right?
Yeah.
What do you think? Okay. Thank you for having me. I've been Pictish Trail. Bye.
Hello, Pictish Trail here. Kids are in bed, so I can have a cup of tea and do some rocking tunes for you all.
Tell me you're going away, to tell me you're so sorry. Can we wait in the water one last time? Till the water covers our mouths and our eyes, and our eyes, and our eyes, our eyes. Wait until your last chance to say goodbye. 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 I'm pushing you over, so you can get up. I'm pushing you head first, so I can pull you out of the ground.
wee bit rusty on the old guitar, but we got through that one. I'm not sure if you can hear barking in the background. It's our sheepdog, one of our sheepdogs. He's a fan. He's a big fan.
Diamond rough, gonna cut you up badly. I take for granted all the things you ask of me. Evidently I can't accommodate all your demands, and how that breaks you, forsakes you over again. I've had enough time to figure out what this means. Stop nothing to avoid the glare of the red machine. Big brains congeal and slowly peel from the bottom of the pan. How I scrape them and replace them over again. Over again. And I see you coming out of your sadness. See you coming out of your madness. I don't wanna make you sad. This party's cloud is going down like a big lead balloon, inexplicably inflated, sink in the room. Is this all real? How do you feel? Can't remember if I filled up accidentally with diesel. I've had enough time to figure out what this means. Stop nothing to avoid the glare of the red machine. Chemicals and shivers, eyes the size of mirrors that don't reflect the pink expression. It stares back again.
This is a song written by Jesus Christ.
Little donkey, little donkey, on the dusty keep on plodding onwards with your precious love. It's been a long time, my pretty little donkey, through the winter's night. Don't give up now, pretty little donkey. Bethlehem's in charge. Ring out those bells tonight, Bethlehem, Bethlehem, and follow that star tonight, Bethlehem, Bethlehem. Hey. Little donkey, it's had a heavy day. Little donkey carried large Mary safely on her way. Little donkey carried heavily pregnant Mary safely on her way. Her way. Oh, her way. On her way. Merry Christmas.
And thank you so much for that, Pictish Trail. Brilliant. Cool. So last up, we have the one and only Tamara Schlesinger, aka MALKA, our artist curator for tonight's show. So Tamara has had critical acclaim in high-profile press, such as The Independent, The Line of Best Fit, The Skinny, and Drowned in Sound. She's played numerous live shows, from stages at Glastonbury to Bestival to support slots with Deacon Blue, Tim Minchin, and Belle and Sebastian. Her latest album, I'm Not Your Soldier, was released at the start of this year, and her launch tour was set to happen just before lockdown. Like so many artists, Tamara has been greatly affected by the pandemic, and tonight we will see her perform live as MALKA for the first time since March, right here in La Belle Angèle. Before the live music magic happens, let's go to Tamara to talk a little bit about this strange and difficult year and how she's navigated the absence of live performance. Hi, Tamara. Thanks so much for joining us tonight. I just wanted to first ask you about the cancellation of your tour and how that's affected you artistically.
I think for everyone, as you just heard Pictish Trail saying, it's been a really tough year, and it's been hard to navigate the landscape and work out what to do. My album came out in February as well. We were actually just touring as the pandemic hit, and I made the decision to pull the tour, which was actually the right decision in the end. And I think it's just been hard to try and work out what to do, similar to what Pictish Trail was saying. So, I think we've all found our own ways. I also released videos and kind of worked on new material, released new tracks, and in some ways it's been inspiring to try and find new ways to deal with the situation.
Yeah, totally. So I've heard you've been working on a new project recently where a group of Scottish female singer-songwriters have joined forces to fight gender imbalance in the music industry. Can you talk a little bit about that, please?
Yeah, so I just launched a project called Hen House, which has got some incredible female singer-songwriters involved, and Carla is one of them. And there's so many women writing amazing music, but the numbers, the stats, they're not good. There's 14% of songwriters signed to publishers in the UK are women. So I felt like something needed to be done, and as we talked about, I was unable to do my normal touring and festivals, so it felt like the right time to work out this collective to empower everyone, get everyone working in new roles, and build a team of people to support each other and kind of have a voice together. So we're just working right now on this project, and it was funded by Creative Scotland, so excited to see what's going to come out.
Amazing. Look forward to hearing more about that soon. Great. So we're going to head to the stage soon with MALKA to play us out. But just before I go, I want to say thank you to all the contributors for tonight and the Hidden Door team. A big thank you to La Belle Angèle for letting us back in this amazing venue. And let's make sure our local venues are never taken for granted again. And when it's possible that we go out and support live music. So we're taking a break now until after Christmas and New Year. Goodbye 2020. But we'll be back in January with some more great shows. So without further ado, take it away, MALKA.
And you was calling. We left you to find peace the other morning. it's so nice to be here. We haven't played together, as Tess said, since March. And I can't even explain how good it feels, just the power of playing together. I think I told myself that I didn't miss this. I think that was my way of getting through what we were doing and how the pandemic was, but God, I have missed it. Just guys, it's nice to play with you together again. So, yes, we're going to play a couple of songs for you tonight. Left my stand at home. Can I also just say, Carla, Kapil and Pictish Trail, that was amazing. Thank you for being a part of this. This one's called Don't Leave Me. In the middle of that song, I thought of something to say, and I've totally forgotten what I was going to say. This is standard, so normally I'd probably have drunk more and I'd be funnier, but anyway, that's not the case. So this song's called Invisible, and we're just playing songs from the new record today because, well, we didn't get to do that, did we? So, yes. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. That's not the last song. We have one more for you. And thank you, Hidden Door, for asking me to curate this. It's been an honour to be able to bring the band together to play and to be able to connect with these incredible musicians and ask them to be a part of it. And this song was released in, I think it was January. And I thought we'd all be moving together. I thought this would be the summer hit, didn't we? We all thought it would be the summer hit. Yeah, I've never had a hit. But if this one was going to be a hit, it would have been this year. But it wasn't, because no one was moving together. And maybe it'll be a 2021 hit. But if you want to move together in your houses, then that would be nice. We will. Will we try? We'll try. Yeah, this one's called Moving Together.
Rewinding a line and folding back time. Unbroken, words spoken, leave them far behind us. And I'm letting everything flow with the beat of the stream. Never needed anything else, let's make this last forever. Move, come on together. Ooh la 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 la. Move, come on together. Never needed anything else. Let's make this last forever. Ooh, come on together. Ooh la 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 la. Ooh, come on together. Ooh la 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 la. Ooh, come on together. Ooh la 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 la. Ooh, come on together. And the road ahead may be a blur. Full circle, start over again. Catch your breath, catch your mind, have your hand in mine. Full circle, start over again. La 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 Thank you so much, everybody, for watching. Merry Christmas. The nights, the frights that keep me locked away in here. The streets, the sound, the ground I love is here. Oh, the lights still go. Oh, fading, fading, fading from the show. Oh, the lights still glow. Oh, fading, fading, fading from the show. Let's wrap it up.